My girlfriend lied about being pregnant to trap me into marriage, so I waited, gathered proof, and destroyed her reputation without saying a single word. I'm a 28-year-old guy, and for a long time I genuinely thought I'd found my forever. Claire was everything I thought I wanted: kind, funny, beautiful, and so damn attentive. She made me feel seen in a way no one ever had before. We met at a friend's housewarming party, and from that night on, she just fit. She remembered little things about me, how I liked my coffee, the exact playlist I listened to when I worked late. It felt effortless, like love was finally something simple. People envied us. We had matching travel photos, anniversary posts with cheesy captions, and friends constantly said, "You two are the definition of couple goals." And I'll admit, I wore that image like a badge of honor. I thought if everyone else saw us as perfect, then we must be. Claire leaned into it even harder. Curated moments, coordinated outfits, the whole social media dream. But perfection has a funny way of hiding its own cracks. I started noticing how she'd tense up when I mentioned my career, how I wanted to switch to a more demanding job that might require travel. Her face would fall and she'd say softly, "I just don't want us to drift apart." Sweet words, but her eyes gave away fear, not of losing me, but of losing control. Soon, the little moments became patterns. If I went out with friends, she'd text, "Miss you already." At first, it felt flattering. But then came, "Why didn't you text me back yet?" Or, "You always have time for them, never for me." It was subtle, manipulative even, wrapped in affection. Still, I ignored it. Because when someone loves you that intensely, you tell yourself it's passion, not pressure. You don't see the cage until the door quietly clicks shut, and at that point, I didn't even realize it had. It started small, like whispers of smoke before the fire. One night over dinner, Claire leaned across the table, twirling her fork, and said, "You know, my mom keeps asking when we're getting married." I laughed it off, thinking it was just conversation, but her smile didn't fade. "I mean, we've been together 2 years, babe. Don't you think it's time?" That was the first real knot in my stomach. I loved her, but marriage wasn't something I wanted to rush. I told her I needed to focus on my career first, that I was up for a major promotion soon. Her expression shifted, soft eyes turning distant. "So your job matters more than us?" she asked. I tried to explain, to reassure her, but she only nodded quietly, staring at her plate. After that, the jokes began, the kind that weren't really jokes. When we'd watch wedding videos on YouTube, she'd sigh, "I can't wait for our day." When her friend got engaged, she posted a photo captioned, "Some people get lucky early. The rest of us, still waiting." Everyone thought it was playful. I knew better. Her parents started inviting me over more often, calling me our future son-in-law. They'd ask about ring sizes, venues, and honeymoon spots. I'd laugh awkwardly while Claire beamed beside me, her hand tightening around mine. Every conversation felt like a setup, every compliment a push closer to a life I hadn't agreed to yet. At night, when I'd say, "Can we slow down a little?" she'd look hurt. "I just love you so much," she'd whisper. "I can't imagine wasting any more time apart." It sounded romantic, until I realized love shouldn't feel like negotiation. Still, I told myself it was normal. Everyone compromises, right? But deep down, something in me already knew. I was being guided somewhere I didn't choose to go. And the worst part? I kept walking anyway. It was a Thursday night. One of those long, exhausting days where all I wanted was takeout and silence. I came home, tossed my keys on the counter, and saw Claire sitting on the couch, hands clasped, eyes glistening. Before I could even ask what was wrong, she whispered, "I'm pregnant." My mind froze. The world just tilted. She was crying, or maybe acting like she was, trembling hands, soft sniffles, whispering, "I didn't mean for it to happen, but I'm kind of happy." I sat beside her, heart pounding so hard it hurt. My first thought wasn't joy, it was disbelief. We were careful. We always had been. Still, I pulled her close because that's what a good man is supposed to do, right? She melted into me, sobbing, "I knew you'd be here for me." Within hours, she'd texted her mom, and the next day, her entire family knew. My phone blew up with congratulations and welcome to fatherhood messages. I tried to ask basic questions about the doctor, the tests, how far along she was, but she brushed them off. "It's early," she said. I just want to wait a bit before going in. Something about that didn't sit right. I wanted to believe her, but the story kept shifting. 2 weeks, then a month, then suddenly, I might have miscounted. Her parents were ecstatic. They started talking about engagement parties. For the baby's sake. I felt the trap closing, the weight of expectations tightening around my neck. Claire acted like everything was already decided, browsing baby names, showing me Pinterest boards for nurseries. At night, I'd stare at the ceiling, feeling this mix of fear and guilt. I wanted to be supportive, but deep down I couldn't shake this whisper in my gut saying something wasn't right. And I was right. I just didn't know how far she was willing to go to make the lie real. 2 weeks after the pregnancy announcement, Claire's mom called me, giddy and loud on speakerphone. "We're throwing a little dinner this weekend to celebrate. Nothing fancy, just family and close friends." The word celebrate made my stomach twist. I didn't even know what we were celebrating, a lie I couldn't prove yet or a future I didn't choose. When I arrived, the dining room looked like a Hallmark movie. Balloons that said "New Beginnings," champagne glasses lined up, Claire in a pale pink dress with her hand resting delicately on her stomach. She beamed when she saw me, not with love but with victory. And before I could sit down, her father raised a glass. "To our soon-to-be son-in-law." Everyone clapped. My throat went dry. I tried to smile, but it felt like betrayal to my own instincts. Claire slipped her arm through mine and whispered, "I told them we're engaged. I just couldn't wait any longer." I froze. "Engaged? Claire, we didn't even—" She squeezed my hand, her nails digging into my skin, still smiling at the crowd. "Just go with it," she hissed under her breath. The night blurred. People hugged me, congratulated us, took photos. Claire basked in it all, while I stood there like a mannequin wearing a fake smile. When we finally got home, I asked her what the hell that was. She teared up instantly. "I just wanted to feel secure, okay? You were so distant lately. I thought this would make you happy." Her voice cracked perfectly, the kind of emotional precision that makes you doubt your own reality. I said nothing, because deep down, I wasn't sure if she was broken or brilliant. But I did know one thing. I wasn't in control anymore, and that realization was terrifying. After that dinner, something in me shut off. I smiled when people congratulated me, played along for her sake, but inside, I was running on suspicion. Every word out of Claire's mouth started sounding rehearsed. She'd say things like, "I can't wait to show you the first ultrasound." But somehow, there was never a date set. Always next week, always soon. My best friend Mark was the first to say it out loud. "Bro, are you sure she's even pregnant?" I laughed, defensively, awkwardly, but the question stuck like a splinter in my brain. When I told him she hadn't shown me any test, no doctor visits, nothing, he raised an eyebrow. "That's not normal, man." So we started quietly checking things. I remembered the clinic name she once mentioned and called, pretending to book an appointment under her name. The receptionist said they had no patient file for anyone named Claire with that last name. My stomach dropped. That night, she posted a photo of herself with a glass of red wine, captioned, "Finally relaxing a bit." I stared at it for minutes, my mind screaming. I asked her later, "I thought you couldn't drink." She laughed softly. "It was non-alcoholic, babe." But I knew it wasn't. Then came the slip-up. Her coworker, Jenna, bumped into me at a coffee shop and asked, "So, are you guys still trying? Claire said it's been stressful." My blood ran cold. Trying? That's when everything clicked. She wasn't pregnant. She never had been. She was planning something, but instead of confronting her, I made a decision. I'd let her keep lying. I'd play the perfect boyfriend, listen, nod, and smile, while quietly documenting everything, because sometimes silence builds the loudest kind of revenge. Once I decided to stop reacting and start observing, everything about Claire began to look different. The fake tenderness, the sudden mood swings, the constant need to control the narrative, it was all performance. She'd leave doctor appointment reminders on her phone calendar, but when I asked to go with her, she'd suddenly say, "It's just a checkup, nothing major." Then she'd come home with no paperwork, no ultrasound, not even a pamphlet. I started saving everything, texts, screenshots, timestamps. Mark helped me dig deeper, and that's when the real twist came. We found receipts from a medical lab she'd visited months before the supposed pregnancy. but they weren't for prenatal care. They were for fertility testing. Blood work, hormone panels, and all pointing to one truth: Claire wasn't pregnant. She was trying to get pregnant and failed. That realization hit me like a truck. She hadn't just lied, she'd planned it. This wasn't an impulsive mistake. It was a calculated move to secure the future she wanted. I stared at the receipts for hours, the paper trembling in my hands. Every "I love you" replayed in my head, now tainted with manipulation. That night, I walked into our apartment and watched her cooking dinner, humming like nothing was wrong. I smiled, hugged her from behind, whispered, "You're incredible, you know that?" She giggled and leaned into me. She didn't notice I was recording the entire conversation, her casual contradictions, her avoidance, her own words confirming she'd never gone to a prenatal visit. I wasn't ready to expose her yet. Not until she trapped herself beyond recovery. I wanted truth to crush her, not anger. And the cruel part? Watching her lie so effortlessly made me realize something darker. She wasn't scared of being caught. She was convinced she never would be. About 3 weeks after I discovered the fertility receipts, Claire's behavior shifted again. She stopped talking about the baby altogether. No updates, no appointments, no name ideas. One night I came home to find her sitting on the bathroom floor, mascara streaked, clutching a tissue like her life depended on it. When she looked up, her voice cracked perfectly. "It's gone." My chest tightened, not from grief, but from the eerie calm that came with clarity. "Gone?" I asked softly. She nodded, whispering, "I had a miscarriage this morning. I didn't want to tell you until I could process it." Tears, shaking hands, a trembling voice, and she delivered it like a script she'd rehearsed for weeks. I knelt down beside her, pretending to console her while studying every detail. Dry eyes, no visible pain, no signs of anything real. She clung to me, whispering, "Please don't leave me through this. I need you more than ever." Within hours, her social media filled with cryptic posts. Life can be so cruel sometimes. Healing takes time. People flooded her comments with sympathy. Friends texted me calling her so strong. I responded politely because what else could I do? Any sign of disbelief would make me the monster who abandoned his grieving girlfriend. But privately, I started building the final puzzle. Voice recordings, timelines, statements from her coworker, screenshots of her texts contradicting her own story. Every lie was neatly cataloged. I didn't even need to exaggerate. Her own words condemned her. The cruel genius of her act wasn't in faking pregnancy. It was faking loss. She weaponized tragedy, painting herself as a victim while turning me into her silent caretaker. And the more people pitied her, the more invisible my truth became. But she didn't know. I wasn't broken. I was waiting, and my silence was about to become the loudest sound she'd ever hear. After her so-called miscarriage, Claire slipped seamlessly into her next role, the grieving survivor. She started posting long captions about strength, loss, and healing. Her friends brought her flowers. Her coworkers organized a small comfort lunch. Everywhere we went, people looked at her with sympathy and at me with quiet admiration. The loyal boyfriend who stood by her through tragedy. I played my part perfectly. I cooked for her, held her when she cried, nodded when she said things like, "I just hope God blesses us again one day." Every moment was documented in my mind, not because I cared anymore, but because every lie she told made the truth sharper. At night, when she fell asleep, I'd sit in the dark scrolling through our message history, cross-referencing dates, taking screenshots. I'd replay her voice notes and record my own thoughts right after, a digital journal of betrayal. She thought she'd broken me. She had no idea she'd only made me precise. Mark helped me organize everything. Screenshots, medical records, voice memos. The evidence pile grew like a case file for a courtroom. We even had audio of her bragging to a friend at a cafe. "He's not going anywhere. He thinks I lost the baby and he feels guilty. He'll marry me out of pity if I play this right." That line broke something in me. Not anger, something colder, detachment. So I stopped reacting altogether. I smiled, agreed with everything she said, even told her, "Maybe it's time we start over. Heal together." She beamed, thinking I was still under her spell. In truth, I was already preparing my final move, one that didn't need yelling. Fighting or revenge posts? Just the right audience, the right timing, and silence. Absolute merciless silence. A month later, Claire decided she wanted to celebrate a new chapter. She called it a recovery dinner. But when I arrived at the venue, it was something else entirely. A full-blown engagement party. Fairy lights, champagne, friends, co-workers, and her parents beaming at the entrance like royalty. She looked stunning in white, like a bride rehearsing her walk down the aisle. As I stood there realizing what she'd done, she grabbed my hand and whispered, "You'll thank me later." I smiled faintly, the same way a hunter smiles before springing a trap. Halfway through the dinner, her father raised his glass. To Claire and the man who never gave up on her. "We're so proud to welcome him officially into the family." Applause filled the room. She turned to me, eyes glistening, expecting me to kneel. Maybe to make it official, maybe just to play along again. But I didn't move. Instead, I reached into my jacket and pulled out a small flash drive. I handed it to her brother, who worked in IT, and said calmly, "Would you mind showing the photos I prepared for Claire?" The lights dimmed, the projector flickered on, and within seconds, her carefully constructed world began to implode. Screenshots of her fake pregnancy texts, audio recordings of her bragging about manipulating me, the fertility test receipts, even the wine photo with the timestamp. At first, people thought it was a mistake. Then silence. You could hear every heartbeat in that room. Claire stood frozen, color draining from her face as whispers erupted. Her mom gasped, covering her mouth. Her dad lowered his glass, expression dark. I didn't say a word. I just looked at her. Calm, steady, unreadable. And when the slideshow ended, I turned, nodded politely to her family, and walked out. Behind me, chaos erupted, shouting, crying, phones snapping pictures. But me? I just walked into the night, free. The next morning, my phone was on fire. Missed calls, dozens of messages, screenshots of social media posts all circling around the same thing. "Did you hear what happened to Claire?" By sunrise, everyone in our circle knew. Someone had recorded the entire moment at the restaurant, and the video was spreading like wildfire. Claire's perfect image, the doting girlfriend, the tragic survivor, was gone overnight. Her followers turned on her, demanding answers. Her co-workers quietly stopped interacting online. The sympathy she'd soaked in just days ago curdled into ridicule. She tried to reach me. Texts, emails, even a handwritten letter slipped under my apartment door. "You ruined my life," she wrote. "You didn't have to humiliate me like that." But I never replied. I didn't need to. The truth did all the talking. A week later, her parents called. Her mother's voice trembled. "We didn't know, son. We're so sorry for what she did to you." I told her it wasn't their fault, that sometimes people just get too good at pretending. And then, for the first time in months, I slept. Really slept. Without that knot in my chest. Claire eventually deleted all her accounts. The restaurant where it happened stopped taking event bookings for a while because of the attention. And me? I just went back to work like nothing happened. Co-workers whispered, friends asked for details, but I never indulged. I learned the power of silence, how devastating truth can be when delivered without anger. Some called it revenge. But I didn't destroy her. She destroyed herself. All I did was let the truth breathe, and sometimes, that's all it takes to turn a liar's world into ashes. For weeks after the reveal, my life was strangely quiet. No more chaos, no more constant overthinking, and just silence. But it wasn't peace yet. It was the kind of silence that lets your mind wander to all the what-ifs. What if I'd caught on sooner? What if I'd walked away before she pushed me into her fantasy? Everywhere I went, there were echoes of her. The cafe where we had our first date, the park bench where she said, "You're my forever." I'd sit there sometimes, not out of sadness, but disbelief. How could someone fake love so convincingly? How could I have missed the signs? One night, Mark came over with a couple of beers. We sat in the same living room that used to feel like home when she was around. He said quietly, "You know, you could have ruined her worse." "You didn't," I shrugged. That wasn't the point. Because the truth was, by the time everything fell apart, I didn't hate her anymore. I just didn't believe her existence the way I once did. I kept all the evidence in a folder on my drive, not out of spite, but as a reminder. A reminder that sometimes manipulation doesn't come with screaming or threats. Sometimes it comes dressed as devotion, wrapped in, "I love you." There were nights when guilt tried to creep in, wondering if I'd gone too far, if exposing her publicly had crossed a line. But then I'd remember her words, "He'll marry me out of pity if I play this right." That sentence alone erased every ounce of doubt. It wasn't cruelty that ended her game. It was justice, quiet, unemotional, honest. And slowly, I started to feel something I hadn't in months. Freedom with no apology attached. Months passed, and life finally began to feel like mine again. The air in my apartment didn't feel heavy anymore. The walls no longer echoed with tension or guilt. I started getting up earlier, running before work, cooking for myself again. Small things that somehow felt like milestones. Healing isn't cinematic. It's painfully quiet. It happens in grocery aisles, at stoplights, in the moments where you realize you're no longer flinching at memories. Claire vanished from my world completely. Her social media disappeared, mutual friends stopped mentioning her name, and eventually the whispers died down. The video faded into internet history, replaced by newer scandals. But I kept one file, a single clip of that night, not for revenge, but as proof that no matter how polished someone looks, deceit still cracks under truth. One evening, I sat by the window, laptop closed, and just breathed. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even proud. I was empty in the best way, like every ounce of weight had finally drained out of me. That's when it hit me. She never really took anything from me. She tried to own my decisions, rewrite my story, and trap me in her version of love. But by staying silent and patient, I'd reclaimed something far more powerful: control. I've started dating again, slowly, carefully. I don't overshare, don't rush, don't ignore my gut. The lesson Claire left me with wasn't bitterness, it was clarity. That love without honesty isn't love at all. It's performance. So now when people ask what happened, I just smile and say, I stopped protecting the lie. Because in the end, I didn't destroy her. She destroyed herself, and all I did was finally step out of the wreckage and start walking forward.